I picked people with heart that had the want and need to give back to their community, and they made really good money doing it, but their first portion of their mission wasn't just a paycheck.
Why my company exists? That is a question that 90% of the business owners can't answer these days because they have never thought about this.
If you're selling a roof for $1,000 deductible and it's a $30,000 roof, that's not a sale. You're not a super salesman. You had a homeowner in need and you had a supply for that. You can't just turn on automations and assume that your company's going to run without you.
And 99 out of 100 people, they think that brand is just colors and logos. But a brand is just a company that has a purpose. Welcome to the 10th episode of season 2 of the Roofing Millionaires podcast, the only roofing podcast where we don't promote anyone and we don't sell you anything. In this episode, we are sitting down with Lisa Cimaroli from the Roof Rider Academy. Lisa shares how you can protect the legacy of your roofing business in the age of AI, automations and software. So do like and subscribe to our YouTube channel if you want us to bring more roofing experts like this on the show. Let's dive in. Can you give us a brief introduction about what you did in roofing and outside and what you are doing right now?
I got into the roofing space in 2014. Nobody wakes up one day and says, boy, roofing sounds really sexy. That's what I should do with the rest of my life. I got in, started knocking doors with a large storm restoration company outside of Illinois. And I realized fairly quickly that it was something that I almost became just obsessed with in a good way. It was a field that I could really dig in, help people a ton. I did only insurance work for the majority of my roofing career. So it was very specialized. I did a lot with code compliance and working with local municipalities. In 2015, I moved to Cincinnati. Then I went from there to Indianapolis, there to Chicago. I opened up multiple locations for the company I was working for, which is a really large outfit. They changed kind of the way they were doing things. They went from being a cradle to grave company to being sell, build, collect, which I wasn't interested in. I had spent so much time learning every aspect of the business that being only a salesperson was of no interest to me. It felt like I was being dishonest to all of the work that I had put in. So in 2021, I opened up my own roofing company. I scaled that from 0 to 30 million in 3 years. We had locations in Florida, Missouri, Texas, and New York. I made a career shift as of November of last year. I had been working for a really long time on Roof Rider Academy, which I used as a platform for education. Partnered with law firms across the United States. So I've done speeches with Cohen Law, Merlin Law, and now ILG. And we do free education for roofing companies on how to better set up their onboarding processes with their homeowners to make sure that the policyholder, because we all forget at the end of the day, advocacy work and policyholder protection so important if you're in the insurance roofing space. There's a lot of roofers out there that are very numbers focused, which is really awesome because you have to be able to pay your bills. However, the more you spend time in helping the policyholder, the more you have the ability to give them a better product, understand more of the pain portion of it. I lost everything in 2021 in a flood. So as a victim myself, I can understand where all of the pain points come in. It's different to sell when you don't know what it's like. It's easier to work with somebody once you've been through it and you've had to go through all of the same hardships and feelings that they're going through as they're starting to move through the process. Sometimes it's a claim as small as, you're missing a couple of shingles, which you don't think is super important as a policyholder or as a homeowner, all the way up to your home has been completely destroyed. And hard is hard for everybody different. So, if it's leaking in your kitchen, that could be the end of your world if you've never been through something like that and your insurance turns you down versus the person that lost everything. It doesn't make it any easier when you're, fighting an insurance carrier that should have taken care of you from the beginning. So that's sort of how I ended up in this industry and fell in love with what I'm doing. I have now stepped into doing expert witness work full time and consulting work full time because there's such a need in the roofing space for those things. I've now built it and scaled it, and I have all of the back end for all that good stuff, but it was no longer as challenging as this is. And this now I can help um, thousands of people across the United States be better at their trade and get back on track and put their
Beautiful.
back to work. Realistically, at the end of the day, I've had lots and lots of conversations this year, and 2025 was really challenging for a lot of roofing companies. And the more people that I speak with, the more we realize that the industry changes, and either you change with it or you get left behind. And AI is changing the way the industry moves and how quickly information is exchanged. People are afraid to utilize those things. The faster they embrace it, the better it's going to be. Knowing how to do insurance, it's not what it was in 2015, where a State Farm truck would roll up and they'd write you a check on site. You have to be more equipped and much more educated, and you have to be able to stay in your lane too. Being educated on the public adjuster, on the insurance adjuster, because I have my license, and then on the contractor side, what can you say legally and where do those lines cross is really important nowadays because the insurance company is getting much more aggressive on how they handle contractors that are stepping out of their lane and acting as public adjusters versus acting as a contractor and being solely based on restoration realities, meaning is it required and necessary? What is the codes and how is it built? That's the contractor's portion. And then as you move into the public adjusters portion, now you're talking more about policy, right? And from somebody that does expert witness work, nothing can be more detrimental to a case than having a contractor that's overstepped or has tried to act as a public adjuster without having that knowledge. It can actually hurt your case long term.
I agree with you. And by listening to what you are saying, I can definitely sense that you are someone who really takes care of the people she works with. And you believe in having that human to human connection instead of just having a transaction with the other person. And that is something that I want to bring later on in this interview. And I also believe that AI is definitely changing the roofing industry, and it is expanding into every industry that we can think of, or every individual life that exists in this world. So we're going to talk about that in the later part of this interview as well. And of course, we're going to talk about building codes and public adjusters too. But for now, Lisa, if someone knows you, I guess everyone knows that you have scaled your company in 3 years and you went from here to here in such a short amount of time. And you have done so many interviews where everyone asks you, what did you do differently in order to achieve this success in such a short time? Whereas I feel that if you really have to achieve success, I can be wrong here. I believe that you don't have to do anything differently. You just have to master the basics so that you become the master of the basics, and then you easily achieve success. This is something that most people don't focus upon. That is what I want to ask you, that from scaling a company from scratch to 30 million and having a company that has locations in multiple states, what do you think were the core principles that gave you the success that you achieved?
I think the most important part was I had done every part of this industry before I opened up my own company. So instead of coming from just a sales side or from a production side or a collection side, I had done all three of those on a large scale over multiple states. So I came in with a really strong foundation. And that's really important, is that when you are starting a company, being able to know what it is that you guys want and what you don't from the beginning, and having a mission, vision, values set up right away before you get started, knowing where you want to be and planning for a 30 million company from day one is more important. When you set that foundational groundwork in, you can scale as much as you want, but 90% of the companies that I've coached over the years, the owner is the stuck or the plug in the funnel because they know everything, but they don't want to disseminate that information to their people because they're afraid of either losing their people or whatever the situation is. The faster you get it out of your head on paper and set a standard so that you can hold people accountable to that, and you build out a rhythm and a cadence. Early on, we had done book clubs at the first company I was with, and I had done that in my lifestyle before I got into roofing too, where book clubs were really important. You'd get in there, you'd start reading. There was a book that I read that was called Scaling Up by Vern Harnish,
Hmm.
and it talked about setting up your meeting rhythms and understanding all of the basics. And on Monday, I do this, and on Tuesday, and it becomes routine. The faster you set up the foundation and the routine, and then you get your guys on board, and then you hold them accountable to the routine, and you have SOPs and workflows. That's all it takes to scale. It's about using the right programs and investing in the right programs. As you guys know, it's no secret. I work with Job Nimbus. I love what they do. They allowed me to scale pretty quickly, and they grew with me as a CRM. I worked with Eagle View. They were the best in the industry when it came to measurements. Like, picking out the right partners is super important as well. Investing in programs that invest in you so that when your company is growing, those programs are also helping you grow your company. Because as an owner, you can say anything you want. I would laugh and I'd say this all the time. I just told my guys the same story 13 times, didn't hear it. And I would have, one of my partner reps come in from one of the companies I was working with, or a supplier or a vendor or whatever. They would say exactly the same thing I said. It was like the heavens opened up and the cherubs started, singing, and all of a sudden they heard it. So, like, having that partnership is super important. Again, it's back to foundations, being human, understanding what your limitations are, setting expectations early. Don't be afraid to say no to things that you don't believe in, and then just hold yourself accountable to, finding ways of doing it that mean something to you. If you're doing the right thing all the time, the numbers come. Numbers don't lie and numbers don't care, right? But at the same time, if you go to bed and you can't sleep at night because you guys aren't holding yourself accountable to a higher standard, are you doing, yes, you may be successful, but for how long? Right. So when you're building that foundation, all of those things go into place. It's not hard. It does take conscious effort in planning and then execution. And everybody does the planning part, and very few do the execution and holding accountable part.
I feel that there are two factors here that a lot of times roofing company owner they don't know what they are actually doing, and the first one is fear that you discussed as well, that they think that if I will share all the information with the other person, they might open their own roofing company or they will get ahead of me. That is fear. The second thing is uncertainty, like they don't know why my company exists in the first place. They don't know about the foundations. Like everyone, you just mentioned it, that you have to sleep peacefully at night. I meet people every single day who own multi-million dollar roofing companies, and they tell me that I train my sales reps, and when I train them, they start making some money, they don't have any motivation. I tell them that it is not the problem with them, it is the problem with you, because you are not showing them something that is big enough that encourages them to do the best work. All you have to show up is money. You just show them that this is the commission that you can make. And once they start making an amount that they feel that is enough for them, then they don't strive for more. And the second thing is definitely that they don't want to share the right information. So, do you believe that roofing company owners they don't know that why their company exists in the first place. And that is something that if someone can find out, it might not be same for everyone. Like everyone might not want to build that $30 million company that you did. Everyone might not be able to want that charisma and that charm of owning a big company. They just want a small brand. How can someone actually analyze or actually figure out their foundations in the first place as an owner? Because these are the things that don't show up when you are having your first 50 projects or 100 projects. But when you actually scale up, these are the things that give you that sense of motivation that you mentioned in the beginning of this podcast as well, that you have to be clear on your mission. So how can someone find these foundations in the first place when they are beginning?
So I would say probably the most important part for me was it wasn't about ever building to be a $30 million company. Okay. I wanted to build a company where my people could feel safe, that they had the ability to make mistakes and come to me so that we can grow together. I wanted to have an all-inclusive, not an exclusive environment. So I hired people that the rest of the roofing industry, I did not have an entire team of 22-year-old, so to say, Chads, which is like the perfect looking gentleman that shows up with a perfect smile. That wasn't my team. My team was, if you've seen it from the outside, it looked very ragtag. It was very much I picked people with heart that had the want and need to give back to their community. And they made really good money doing it. But their first portion of their mission wasn't just a paycheck. There was many times, especially when we opened our New York office. And it took us a really long time to get the insurance companies to pay out in New York. So if those kids didn't band together, and when I say kids, I mean, they were all my kids. I had I don't know, I think 104 at the max. And they ranged in aged all the way up to 65, but they're still my kids, right? Like, so if those kids didn't band together to try and solve the problem and put the problem in front of the money, they would have never stayed because we were 100% commission, right? So there's something to be said about having a good paycheck and making sure that you are signing agreements with your people and having the correct payment structure in place. And then as an owner, holding yourself accountable to pay them out. There is nothing worse than a guy that leaves your team and you don't do an exit interview and pay them properly, and now they smear your company all over. I hear it all the time. Stop it. If you're a roofing owner, do an exit interview, understand what you owe them, what they've done for you, because you probably haven't been looking. If you got more than one location, you might not know what that guy has done. You might be able to solve his stuck while you're in the exit interview and grow a little, right? Like, so I think a lot of the time that motivation does not come from me pushing it down on my people. I had a lot of sessions with my guys and people would laugh and they would say, Lisa, you do kumbaya with your guys. Like, you sit around a campfire and ask them what they want with their life. I'm not so vain to think that they want to be a roofing salesman for the rest of their life. They don't. Nobody gets into door knocking because it's fun, right? A lot of the time people get into door knocking at the end of their career because something happened in their life. So why don't you find out what their dream is and how does that correlate to what you're building? And are they a good fit? Right? Like, is your culture about giving back, which my culture is always about giving back, no matter which one of the companies I run. And not everybody is the right fit for me, and that's okay. It's okay to be a lead horse and you are really money motivated. If that's where you're at, find yourself a leader that you can follow that allows you to be that money motivated lead horse. Totally fine. Because you know what? The more money you make, the more you can give back in a different way. Money is not a bad thing. It's just, what do you do with it when you have it, right? And that whole mirroring happens from understanding what their why is and how their why attaches to your why. But if you're a roofing company that doesn't know your why, how are you going to help other people muddle through? Because I promise you, nobody's ever asked them. And if they finally found you and you're the leader that asked them, first of all, they're going to feel some sort of way because they've never had anybody ask them. And then they're going to have to work through the emotions of being able to feel safe enough to tell you the answer, because it might not be that they don't want to be a roofer forever. And then you have to be brave enough to say, I know that it's okay, but I'm going to help you along the journey, and everything you do while you're here is I'm grateful for, and maybe you'll stay longer because I am grateful, even though you don't need to be here because you've already become successful.
Speaking of why, Lisa, I heard someone say, I forgot their name, that people don't buy your what, they buy your why. People don't buy what you are selling, they buy why you are selling what you are selling. And I think why I do my business or why my company exists, that is a question that 90% of the business owners can't answer these days because they have never thought about this. All they say is the logical stuff when we answer these questions. But people have emotions, and we are psychological human beings. We have emotions. And like in case of roofing, if I ask someone that why your company exists, they say that we use the best materials, we have the best team, we have the best like craftsmanship or anything. All these are logical answers. But if I am a customer and you tell me that you are using best materials, I cannot know that, or I wouldn't feel aligned with that, because that why is so specific to roofing that it is not giving me any motivation to actually hire you. If I am going to be a part of your team and you tell me that you are just going to create roofs, your why is so limited that I am not feeling that push to be a part of your team. Yes, I can be a part of your team if I need money real quick, but in the longer run, your why is so weak. So, do you believe that your why or your purpose should be even bigger than the roofing itself? So, more people can stay aligned with that, not only your team, but your customers and every stakeholder of your team. And at the end of the day, when you go back to your bed, you just don't think that you did a good roof. You think that I contributed to my purpose today. I contributed to my bigger why. And not only you as an owner think of that, your team, your customers, all of them, they think like this, that by hiring this company, we contributed to this bigger why. By being a part of this company, I contributed to being to to like I contributed to this bigger why. And by owning this company or by creating this company, I contributed to this bigger why. Do you believe in that?
Absolutely. Because if you think about it this way, every roofing company, and you probably said it best, every roofing company will tell you the same thing. I use the best materials. I have the fastest supply house. We could turn your roof over. Guess what? Every roofing company says it. That does not make you special. Like, you are 100% like every one of your competitors. Just because you use one product over another product, does it make it a better product? I don't know, not necessarily. Shingles are shingles are shingles. There is a better for sure, right? Because of the way that it's actually built. And I can talk a ton about those things. I have lots of opinions on it, but this isn't the show for it. But the one thing that I will say is, if you're putting on a shingle roof, as long as you're doing it to code and you're using the best products that are available to you, you're not any different than the guy next door. Promise. But the way that your people treat people in your absence, and the culture that you've instilled, I promise you, if your people are out there at the local baseball games and you're supporting your local little league,
Mhm.
and you are working with the HOAs before there's a storm, like, what are you doing in your community and how are you giving back? That is going to speak volumes. We've become so corporatized, even in the roofing space as PEs move in. It's been more and more, top down corporate style. And it's taking the American dream of like the roofing is, I'm a local roofer in your local, community, and I'm involved, right? And it's now become more of I turn and burn roofs and I can get your roof done cheapest, fastest. Or
Yes.
I can get your roof done, highest quality at the best price, or, whatever your thing is. But at the end of the day, are you really part of that community? When was the last time you went and spoke at your local town hall? When was the last time you were involved when there was a disaster? What are you doing to work with the people in your community and give back? If you're a multi-million dollar roofing company and you haven't done the local chili cook-off, are you doing it right? Because I don't want the same customer over and over. I want my customer to be with me once, and I'm going to do it right. And I never want to have you as the customer again unless it's a natural disaster, right? Then that's fine. But I want you to feel like you became part of what my company culture is through this process. And I want you to be able to refer me out to other people. And if I don't have a connection with you as a homeowner, then why would you? Right? Because you asked me to give me a 5-star Google review. Listen, every Better Business Bureau is paid for. Angie's List is pay to play, right? Like even Google to some point is pay to play, because if you have the money to give out gift cards for a 5-star Google review, is that real? So all these homeowners are looking at a 5-star Google review, and I can't tell you how many people have said, well, that's the thing that I just hang my hat on. And then I find out that they've paid every single person to write a 5-star Google review. Anybody will do anything for a $25 gas card. Like, that's ridiculous. What are we doing? Like, how about instead you've volunteered at your local churches and soup kitchens and been involved and handed out eats to the homeless, or I don't know, like just get involved, spend time in your community and be part of it. And it didn't matter how many locations I had. Roof Rider Academy was born out of spending time with people in their community and giving back. And I required my guys, like when you signed on to my team, you had to do some sort of community service or involvement. You had to be a part of some sort of non-for-profit. I wanted them to say, I can't work this weekend because I'm doing this charity work. And that charity work, believe it or not, long term ends up, giving them a sense of purpose, but also gives them a connection.
Lisa, when you were building your company 3 or 4 years back, is there anything that, if you look back now, that you feel you did, but you don't want a roofing company owner to do that if they are at your stage?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the biggest things that I will warn every roofing company against is when you get into roofing, oftentimes you take on business partners or you start growing rapidly and you do not spend the money or time to hire a lawyer to write your operating agreements. If you are out there, I don't care if it's your mentor, your best friend, your brother, your uncle, I don't care who it is you're working with. Make sure that you write operating agreements and 100% of everything before you do work together. I don't care if it's you and a sales rep, you and a production manager. Put it in writing so that you don't ruin friendships and that you don't ruin your company. And that is, I cannot tell you how many people that I've watched over the last several years. And I've been part of the good and the bad and the ugly of not spit in a handshake is not realistic. It does not work. Please, please, please go out there, get yourself a contract lawyer, and always put it in writing. Protects you as a company. Doesn't matter how small you are, protects your people and makes them feel safe enough to go to work every day because they know they're going to get paid. And I've done enough fighting for, people that have come to my company over the years that have left other companies that they didn't get paid properly. It's probably one of the number one complaints in the roofing industry for a sales guy is that so-and-so didn't pay me on this job. And there's one of two things that is really happening when you dig in. One, they weren't clear on what their job objection was and where the payouts happened. Or two, they never put it in writing, so they couldn't hold anybody accountable to pay them properly. So I don't care where you're at in this industry, from top down, bottom up, put it always in writing. It'll save everything long term, for sure.
That is a great advice, and I agree that when you are making money, initially you get so excited that you think that everyone is your friend, and even if you're not doing something wrong, I think that you become that sweet candy that you attract flies and they want to take a piece of you. So if you have that agreement in the first place, even if you're not doing something wrong, you at least have a protection. And speaking of that, like having sales apps and making money, before that you need leads, and you need people who want to work with you as a customer as well when you are building your company. And for that, nowadays we are seeing a lot of these lead generation platforms. And in season 1, I had someone who also owns a platform where they do drone inspections and use AI to monitor roofs and to detect damages, and to, they have created a whole system. That company is probably Sky, but maybe they have changed their name. You are also part of something like that these days, and that is powered by PayPixel. That is a new company, I think, that PayPixel, under the umbrella of PayPixel. So what are you doing with that, and how do you feel is the future of AI and lead generation in roofing?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm super excited to talk about this. So, I met Bobby Quinn through Tom Dring, who was on your show. Matter of fact, that's how I met you. A couple years back, and he sat down with me and he's like, I'm working on this project and I need a little advice and feedback. What do you think, Lisa? And so I piloted the program early before it was released. So, a little bit about PayPixel and its history and their mission completely aligns with me giving back. PayPixel was originally invented by Bobby Quinn, who is a drone mapping background from the United States military and a
Mhm.
weatherman. And in Hurricane Ian, Bobby wanted to give back to his community with the talents that he had. So he went down to Hurricane Ian, and the day after the storm, he had scanned all of Rotunda, which is where the hurricane had hit landfall and sat for almost 5 hours. That next morning, Bobby took his entire team of developers who are out of Tampa, and he scanned thousands of roofs, and he made them public at no cost to the homeowner, because any of us that have ever had or have lived through a disaster, there is something to be said. You don't want to go back to your house if your house isn't livable. And most Floridians evacuate, especially when it's that big of a hurricane, right? And a lot of Florida has elderly people. So you don't want to take your mom, who is elderly and can't go back to a home that is unlivable. So he put all of this imagery online for free. 60 Minutes picked him up and did an entire segment on what he was doing, and it blew up and went viral. Bobby at that point had some investors from the roofing space that are really amazing humans that also believe in giving back, invest in the company and say, hey, what can we do with this technology? So there is different parts of the PayPixel background. One is getting pilots back to work. Aerial drone photography is something that every single company should be using. It's great for advertising. If
Mhm.
you don't have an on-site drone photographer, our network inside, we can show you and give you one. It's all built into the program. It's free and accessible. He also built part of the platform to cover storm realities. So we have a mapping service that's built in that you can get all of your storm data that's admissible in court because it's through SPS and NOAA. So unlike some of the other programs that you pay thousands and thousands of dollars for separately, it's all built into the program. And then the last part is what we're doing for roofers. And this launched the week before Christmas after lots of development, trial and error. And we worked really hard to make sure that we were giving a product that would help get roofers and crews back to work. So what the product does is either you, if you have somebody on your team that does drone work, and you don't need a fancy drone, let's put that out there. You can use a DJI 3 or a Maverick 3 or better, which I got mine off of Facebook for like $300, super cheap, right? You fly a neighborhood and you take one nadir picture, which is top down over
Mhm.
we upload it into the program, and it will identify where your missing shingles are, where your crease shingles are. If you have cracks in your tile, do you have dents on your soft metals or your metals? It will tell you if you're doing TPR roofs where the dirt has been collected. And it does two things. One, for the roofer side of it, it spits out full reports of the homeowner's name, address, telephone numbers, email. So now you can work directly with those homeowners. We build in a QR code for every roofer that there is so that you can work directly with the HOA. So if there is an area that is kind of a mixed bag and they have damage and not damage, how about you send the reports out to the people that also have not damage so that they have it on record, so that when the next storm comes, you were actually doing the right thing, right? So you have the ability to give all of this information to your homeowners. We make it extremely affordable. It comes out at like 35 cents a scan, which
Hmm.
is ridiculously cheap. You spend way more on door knockers or, paying spiffs or like, Saturday morning meeting promos. Like I spend way more on that than 35 cents a flight. I now have the ability to only work with homeowners that have damage.
Hmm.
Year that I ran a roofing company, we knocked 40, and I tracked it because I was using Sales Rabbit, right? But we only did 900 projects. We ran over 3,000 appointments, but I was never going to do work on a home that didn't need me. So if you didn't have damage, then I just put you on my warm list for later. So what if I didn't have to spend over 2,000 appointments that didn't have damage? This is a game changer because now you're only working with homeowners that have damage, number one. You have the ability to now work full HOAs in neighborhoods. You can send people out to survey an area. Let's say you're looking at opening a new branch or you want to go hit a storm area because you are historically a storm restoration company. I remember when I worked for my first company, I would get a call at 4 o'clock in the morning. They would say, there is on the other side of the United States, right? I'd have to pack up all of my stuff. I didn't know anything about that town, but I know I had to be the first boots on the ground with my entire team, which by the way
Hmm.
also had family and, because not everybody on my team was 22-year-old, single guy, right? Like
Hmm.
I had full teams. What
Hmm.
if you can send just your drone pilot up there? And your drone pilot can now tell you exactly where you should be working. You can start a drip campaign before you get out there. You can send customized mailers, which we have a white glove service that sends out a mailer with their actual photo of the house with damage and a
Hmm.
QR code that says, this is your house. Like, do you want a free report? The other thing that we're working on right now, we're partnering with United Survivor Disaster Relief and the American Policyholders Association. Just went through a ton of training. Bobby and I and several of our people on our team are behind this, that we will deploy out to storms as they happen and be able to make that information available for homeowners for free. So we're still staying true to our mission. And if you happen to be in our yearly subscription, guess who's going to end up probably being able to work with those homeowners, right? So us doing philanthropy work and giving back by allowing us to help homeowners when in time of need also helps our roofing companies be the first ones in and be able to help those homeowners too the minute that they know that there is an issue. And so, all of those things being said, AI can be an amazing tool if you know how to use it for good, right? So like it's everything in your tool belt is a tool, but if you don't use it or you don't know how to use it, it's, just a piece of equipment, right? So we're also educating the roofing companies that become part of our program on how to use the tool effectively. So they get Lisa time. It's like having free coaching sessions, right? Like instead of having to pay for my time as Roof Rider Academy. But I jumped in not because I needed to, but because Bobby and I were having a meeting and he goes, I'm like, Bobby, how come you haven't launched this yet? And he said, because I was looking for the right person to help me do the launch. And I said, well, why don't you just ask me? And he said, 'Cause you're too busy." And I said, "No, no, no, I believe in your mission." So I took on the role of business to business developer because for me, I think that roofing is changing, okay? I don't care if you're doing retail or insurance, you have to be able to acquire leads. And most of these roofing companies that have been in the insurance space for a really long time, they forgot how to sell. And that's a reality. Like, the more I talk to people, the more I realize, like, they just forgot how to sell. It was really, really easy. You weren't selling anything, by the way, if you're selling a roof for $1,000 deductible and it's a $30,000 roof. That's not a sale. You're not a super salesman. You had a homeowner in need and you had a supply for that. Well, what if you're moving away from that insurance space? Now you need to be able to give your guys more leads that are good qualified leads. And then it also protects you as a roofing company if you are in the insurance space because you have that historical data before you ever got on their roof. In the last 6 months, out of the companies that I'm coaching, if they are really good insurance restoration companies, okay, and they do primarily insurance, every single one of them have been, even though they don't do this, every single one of them have been accused of causing damage. It's not that they cause damage, it's a deterrent factor that the insurance company uses to scare small mom and pop roofing companies. If you have somebody call you and say that your guy's causing damage, you know he didn't, or you didn't, you were the one that was on that file, and you know that's not what you do, but it gives you pause, right? Like if they can scare you out of doing the work that you're doing, lay, deny, defend is very real. And the insurance carrier, they all work together. And the roofing companies have not figured out that together we go further is my motto, right? And instead of us all being individualized roofing companies, maybe we should all share some of that knowledge. If you knew that 8 other roofing companies that you know might not be bad guys were also accused of causing damage in your area, do you think that all of you are causing damage? The answer is no. Do you think that it might be a scare tactic? Absolutely. But if you're not staying in touch with your neighbors, your fellow roofers in the area, then you would never know it, right? Because you're on an island thinking like you're the only one doing something out there, right? And the insurance carrier, they're a big beast and they have spent their entire life figuring out how to collaborate. So roofing companies, well, like, we're really bad at this. We don't collaborate. We should be collaborating, right? Especially if you're in those spaces. And if I can give you a program that gets you guys back to work today, because I can fly today in Jacksonville today. This is my podcast studio. Like, I'm home today, which is nice. I could go fly Jacksonville today and have those leads uploaded in 30 minutes. I can do 500 flights today, upload them in 30 minutes, and it'll tell me what are my 3 tabs, who's missing the shingles, exactly where those shingles are missing, which is great when you're having the argument about repairability. So you can see exactly where on the roof it's at. And then also, I can now meet with those homeowners on a different level because now instead of standing at their door and saying, because this is historically how we door knocked, right? I don't know if you have any damage, but wouldn't you rather know? We'd love to give you a free inspection. Now I can stand at the door and say, your entire area was scanned. Here's a map of your neighborhood. I scanned 100 homes. 8 of them have damage. Here's all the ones that have damage. There you are. And I push on the button and I can show them the damage right then and there. And I've never been on the roof, so they know I didn't create it. So now we're protecting the homeowner from there's bad roofers. Fraud happens on all sides. It's not, there are roofing companies that, rip up shingles and create damage. Like that's not a secret. There's ones out there. So now you're protecting that homeowner, number one. And number two is you're protecting you as well so that you guys can have a conversation about how can you help them? Because they obviously have a problem and you're not wasting your time or theirs. They have a problem. I have a solution. Now we can move forward with that solution from a different angle. Yeah, so PayPixel has been kind of my baby recently, and I'm really excited to work with Bobby. He's got a heart of gold. Those of you that haven't ever met him, it's really about giving back. I mean, he spent his entire life in the United States military protecting us on a different level. And it's not any different now. He's an amazing dad that's got 2 kids that are just super amazing, mini entrepreneurs that just wanna be involved and, they go out on site and we talk about those things and, I think that, how are you creating that culture and getting aligned with people that are aligned, right? So this was a natural alignment for me. This goes straight back to the core of we have the ability to give back. We have the ability to put roofers back to work. We have the ability to educate and get the scary out of AI for all of our old school roofers that are a little afraid of it. I have the ability to do coaching with companies and help them work on that culture and how they work with homeowners. And if I get paid in the process, then I'm doing it right, right? So it goes right back to that beginning of it's not about the paycheck. The paycheck comes when you're doing all the right things. There's my soapbox. Sorry. I'm so excited because, if, listen, I was a door knocker before I was an
Huh?
owner. And I'm going to tell you, if I had this program years ago, I would have been a millionaire way sooner because it would have eliminated all of the headache and all of the hours of pounding pavement. Now, I got to know a lot of people pounding pavement, but I'm going to tell you, boy, being more focused on the things that make you money and being intentional in what you're doing and
Hmm.
giving your sales reps hope, right?
Hmm.
If you send a rep out there and they don't have a plan, they're never going to execute. But if I give them a set of leads and I say, these are the 26 houses in this neighborhood that need you, do you think they're going to be more likely or less likely to go find them and work with them? Because now they're not wasting their time. They know that that homeowner needs it. Now it's a different conversation between you and your sales rep as well. And this is a trickle down effect, right? If you're not bringing in business, you are not only not helping your team get the ROI that you need to keep your doors open, but the trickle effect is the manufacturers are suffering, the vendors are suffering, the suppliers are suffering, the crews are suffering because everything is solely based on if you don't have work coming in, nobody's got work and it affects all of us across the board. So, how about I help you get work in an ethical manner that allows you to move fast and accurately and track your ROI the right way? If you're paying 35 cents a scan, I want you to put this in your head. 35 cents a scan, you do 1,000 a month. Okay. And you are thinking about it this way. So that's what, a $350 investment month to do this.
Hmm.
If you get one house out of that, you paid for itself, number one. So I'm making it very affordable for everybody, period.
Hmm.
Because it's not about that. It's about getting it in people's hands and getting people back to work. But number two is if on average there's about 13%, if you knock 100 doors, you got about 13% of people that actually have damage. If you're only working with those people and you completely shift your viewpoint to only the damaged houses, do you think you could close more? Yes. So your ROI long term, if you were only closing and building 4 or 5 a month, and now you are on a different level and you are closing and building 20 to 25 a month. What does that look like for your team? What does that open up for you as an owner to be able to get better programs in or more training or bringing in a speaker so that they could have a different perspective or more education? The more money you make and the more you get to invest back in your people, that comes when you bring business in, right? So that ROI is so important. And the amount of people that I've talked to in the last, I don't know, when I started this the week before Christmas, I've done lots of discovery calls because I needed lots of really good feedback. And every single one of them tell me they spend astronomical amounts on leads. And then they create lead babies, which is a nightmare in itself, right? Because if you're buying it from a lead company, 90% of the time they're selling it to 10 other roofers. And now you are bidding yourself to the bottom. How sustainable is that so that you can keep the job? Not sustainable, right? So how about instead your information that you fly, or we have a drone pilot service that can fly for you if you don't have drones. So don't let that be your stop. But if you fly it, it's your information. We don't share it with other roofers. Nobody else gets that flight. Nobody else gets those photos. Those are all yours, your homeowners, your roofer, your information. You're putting in the work for you not for 10 other people. So using that data is all your data, right? So instead of having, I'm paying, I had a guy tell me yesterday that he was paying $500 a lead that wasn't guaranteed that he was going to close it. I'm telling you, I can give you 1,000 opportunities for $350. What are we
I
doing?
have a question here, Lisa.
Yeah.
Maybe you can guide me on this. You guys are doing great work, and I feel that I hear these stories all the time as well, that roofing contractors are paying these call centers and they are reselling the lead to multiple contractors, and then it becomes a price fight because all of them show up and they are paying like 300, 400, and $500 or even more for a lead. Then they have to chase that as well. And you are right about that in this process the company owner creates lead babies. And we cannot ignore the importance of AI, of course. I am an engineer. I have worked with AI and machine learning so much that I know that what you guys are building, Stormview AI, it is the future, and it is solving major portion of a problem in getting and acquiring the business. Lead generation, it is giving you the leads, and it is good. But if we look at it psychologically, but I can see is that, okay, if I have the lead but the foundational stuff that is still there, let me give you an analogy here, that if I have a cut here on my finger and that unfortunately develops into a tumor, and now I have to visit a doctor for this. There are 10 doctors out there, and all of them, they know that I need a surgery, and everyone knows my problem. But there is still a factor that I have to use the best doctor out of these 10 doctors. It is exactly like that in roofing. Like now, what is happening is that every roofing contractor who is going after this home, they know exactly what is the problem of the homeowner, but it never ignores the importance of building your foundations, having your foundational stuff right. So when you show up, the homeowner actually has the confidence to hire you. And the reason I am saying this is that when roofing contractors hear about these platforms, they become so excited that they think that, okay, I have to pay 35 cents for one inspection, let's just say, and I am paying $350 per month. I will get all these jobs, but they don't understand is that they still have to do the foundational work. They still have to make a great company. So when you show up and you, like, if I tell you, Lisa, that I am your doctor and I exactly know what kind of surgery do you need, you will have conviction in me that, okay, Muhammad is saying the right stuff. But if there are 10 doctors out there lined up and each one is telling you a different solution to your problem, even though they know your problem, you will be confused that which is the doctor that I have to go for. And that is the problem that I think you cannot fix. That is the problem the company owner needs to fix on their end, because what you guys are doing, you guys have solved one end of the problem, but the other end of the problem no one else can solve besides the company owner.
Well, actually, we're working on that, and
Hmm.
it's something that will be coming at the end of Q2. Is Roof Rider Academy is partnering with PayPixel so that our clients that are currently our year subscription clients will have access to our training platform as part of their ongoing learning so that they can actually have some of those resources. Because what we realized is if you've been doing one roof a week, you may not have the capacity to do 10 roofs a week. So I may be giving you a phenomenal program, but you can't scale to it. So we are in the process of solving that. And part of that is me being able to help on the other side. So we're creating that platform for education as well. So I'm super excited. Bobby has been super supportive of Roof Rider Academy for a long time, long
Hmm.
before I knew what he was doing as an AI person.
Hmm.
And it allows us to have that conversation so that we can help shift the viewpoint. We don't want roofing companies to come to us when the storm hits. We want them to come to us now so that they can become integrated into their community because the roofer that gives a report that says you have no damage and then fix that same area after the storm hits, you have already created a trust factor with that homeowner. That's going to be the difference. But you won't be able to do that if you don't have the historical data and you're not working with the program. Right. The other thing that everybody has asked me, everybody knows I am a huge Eagleview fan, and I've been an Eagleview fan since 2014. I actually have a training with them tomorrow because I love Eagleview. This has nothing to do. We are not in competition. Okay? Eagleview is a measuring software and a 10,000-foot view, and they have a phenomenal drone program that allows you to identify damage on the roof, but you have to have an appointment with that homeowner. So there's a phenomenal tandem that happens. We do an overall mapping survey at 100-foot view so that you can acquire your clients, and then you can actually use the Eagleview program on the back end to see all the damage without having to put your people on the roof. So this is really important that people understand this. This does not negate that type of program. It only enhances it, right? So we wanted to be in a space where we were able to still work with some of the other programs that were really important. We do integration with Job Nimbus as well. So if you get all these leads in, it now pushes into your Job Nimbus. We're working on integrating with other CRMs. Not all of them are, as excited about it yet. But if you're a CRM and you're watching this and you want to be able to integrate with us, give me a call, send me a message. I'd love to have a conversation with you. We just worked with the people that we had the relationships work with because they're people that I've worked with over years. But eventually we'd like to work with everybody because this is an inclusive, not exclusive culture, right? So this is all about putting all the programs in place to get people back to work in the healthiest form possible and getting them the historical data that they need so that they can make the best decisions with the homeowners, with their crews, with their people.
When we are talking about AI, Lisa, there is another thing as well. And I hope you agree with me on this, that excess of everything is bad. And the reason I am saying this is that so many company owners, not just roofers, they are so desperate about using AI and automations in their business that they don't actually take into account the need of their customer, that whether my customer needs this or not. And let me share a story with you here. I was in conversation with a roofing company owner in Florida last week, and he was so excited about using AI automations in his company. Like, he wanted to notify the homeowner 15 minutes before an inspection, 24 hours. And like, he wanted to fill his company with automations, and I was having a hard time to convince him that you don't need that because your company is not like that. You are operating with a different why. And just in that conversation, he told me that he visited a dentist, and when he was having that appointment with the dentist, that the clinic filled his phone with so many automated messages that he felt annoyed. And that is the point where I felt that you are doing the same to your customer as well. Do you think that your customer is receiving these automated messages from your single company only? No, they are receiving it from their plumber as well. They are receiving it from their dentist. They are receiving it from maybe their hairstylist, maybe from 100 other companies. And that becomes so exhausted. So what is your thought on using AI and not using it to an extent that it does more harm than good?
Okay, so I was one of the first early adopters with automations with Job Nimbus. And I'm going to tell you, I made the mistake. I turned on every automation. It was a nightmare. My homeowners were screaming, my people were screaming. And then I scaled it back and I went from what is required and necessary that I can automate that does good things for me and what takes the human aspect out of it, right? So there's automations can be absolutely amazing if done properly, but you can't just turn on automations and assume that your company's going to run without you. That's not what AI is. AI is a tool in your belt to help you become better and more efficient. And I have a bot that every one of my consulting companies that I work with, I have multiple bots that we've built over the years. My husband Matt is phenomenal on building AI backend stuff. This is his thing. It's become his mission since we got into AI probably a year and a half ago. So we got in and really dug in. And all of those bots are very specific. I've got one for insurance. I've got one for just setting up expert witness stuff. I've got one that all it does is like paperwork and understanding and how to work with customers. I've got one that's Lisa when Lisa isn't there for all of the people that I coach. And sometimes I just have a 3 o'clock in the morning call. The answer is AI in that capacity is fantastic. They can do the things and answer the basic questions and allow you to get to a good spot where you can ask the right questions. They can help you ask the right questions. But when it comes forward facing to your customers, you have to be conscious. Like what you said about he sent them a message an hour, then 15 minutes, and then like, I don't know. There's something to be said. You can't overinform a human, right? Like you want to have really
That
good
feels
communication.
good logically, but not psychologically.
But psychologically, like
Yes.
now you are almost being abusive of their time, right? So the question is, are you using it in tandem to humanization or are you letting it just be a computer and now you've completely taken out the humanization of it? If I'm sending out a message that I'm on my way, I'm not upset about that. But maybe instead of just sending a message that I'm on my way, here's my telephone number if you have any issues, right? Or I'm working with this homeowner and we might be 15 minutes behind. It's not any different than sending a text message, right? But is it customized to the point where that homeowner doesn't feel like they're another number? The minute you make that homeowner feel like they're another number, then you're not using automations correctly. Automations are meant to, when you finish a project, it sends out the warranty paperwork on its own, right? Automations are meant for when you get your customer completion form, it moves it into your next buckets of production so that you can go from doing the roofing to the siding so that your production manager doesn't have to call your office manager to find out where the job is at. Good automations. Automations are having, a pop-up to remind your guys that while they're on site, these are the photos that they need, that they might not have thought of, right? Because they're newer. Or, like there are really good automations. You can over automate. I did it. I was that human. And then you can become distant. The minute you step away from your business and you become so involved in day to day and you're not involved in your like, how is the feedback coming? Set up your automations any way you want, but then go get feedback and adjust. Good companies try new things, fail, and adjust, right? Bad companies try new things, stand behind them so firm that because they spent money on that product that they're just going to keep going and then continue to fail all the way down the, downstream because they paid for a product so they have to do it, right? Like that's a bad idea. Get feedback from your people on what are your customers saying? Is this working for you? Are you setting it and forgetting it, or are you setting it and then tracking your ROI? And ROI isn't always just numbers.
Yes.
Sometimes it's return on investment in feelings and connectivity as well. But if you're not touching base, are you following through? The answer is no. So use your AI for what it's good for. There's language models. I use all sorts of programs. We use ChatGPT, everybody does. We use Gemini, we use Claude, we've used, like there's an array, we've used Grok. Every one of them does something different or a little better at something different. Some are more numbers based, some are more language based. Understanding those things are important, but none of them take away this conversation that I have with you, Mohammed. Like nothing takes away from the connection of a human to human. And the more that we pull away from that, the more we lose that branded touch. What's your brand? I promise you, when I leave this meeting, you will absolutely, if you see me walking through an airport and I get stopped all the time, you see this hat, like, my brand, you know who I am, what our aesthetic is. You know what my story is if you've watched any of my, podcasts or interviews or whatever. And it's not a question of who I am or what I stand for. If I let AI do all of that for me, do you think I would have that connection? And the answer is no. Just like you've built your entire podcast, and I've watched a lot of them on the connection between you and the human story. Your whole first season was all based on tell me your story. And that
Yes.
a lot of people are very much missing that story becomes who we are, and then it helps shape how we create the industry as a whole. And that story is so important. And that was why I was like, yeah, I'd love to be on your podcast because I've watched those.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for saying
Yeah,
that. And it might be silly, Lisa, but I believe that in the coming years, we will crave this human to human connection, and this will become an exclusive and premium thing. Companies will charge more just because they have that human to human connection, and it has become so rare that people will be like dying to pay more to just have this experience, because we will have so much tech around us and so many machines that we will crave this connection. And that is a future, I think, where we are heading to. And you know what, Lisa, you said it perfectly, that this is what actually makes you a brand. Because a lot of times I can say this as a marketer, that I believe I meet people, and 99 out of 100 people, they think that brand is just colors and logos and designs and all of these things. But a brand is just a company or an individual that has a purpose, and he is clear on his purpose, and he believes that the world will be a better place if I achieve this purpose, and I need more people aligned with this purpose. And if I have a community then that trusts me or my company, then I have successfully accomplished my mission. And this is what a brand actually is, and this is what I think you are creating. And I just have a couple of questions for you now, Lisa. One is that earlier in the interview, you told me that roofing contractors spend a lot of money on things that they don't want, that they don't need to. And I agree with you on that as well. Do you believe, Lisa, that roofing company owners or people in the leadership of any business, they need to spend more money on telling people that this is why we exist, instead of trying to sell them your product or your service? Like every ad or every billboard or everything that every interaction even that we have with a company nowadays, it just lacks that human to human connection that you mentioned in the very beginning of this interview, that that is the reason that you are doing what you are doing, because you care about the people, you care about the people who have been through a disaster. And that why you do this, because you have pain for them in your heart, and nothing can replace that alone becomes the north star for everything that you do. Nowadays, every ad that we see, every post that we see, every interaction that we have either with the roofing company or with another business or with any individual, on the back end there is a kind of transaction that the other individual is seeking, and they are maybe sugarcoating this. So when we bring that to businesses, do you believe that if business owners spend more time in showing people that this is my why and this is why my company exists, then the transaction can happen easily later on, because you are not showing people your what, you are showing people your why.
So I got to speak alongside manager John Carter. And if you don't know them, I think you should get to know them. They're pretty amazing. They would be a really great person on your show. I'm going to get to speak with them at SRC coming up here in the next couple of weeks. We sat down and we had this conversation. It's really funny because their whole thing of working with companies to get out marketing material is about being authentic and stop worrying about the perfect and start being closer to the authentic self and the authentic, realistic portion of it. If you're scrolling through YouTube or, Facebook ads or whatever, like we're bombarded by ads all the time. Do you care about the polished ad that gives you the perfect cinematography and the whole, like, you don't care about that. But if you have a story to tell and that story connects, and this goes back to people are worried about AI taking their jobs. If you learn how to be a good storyteller that creates connection with other people, there is no AI in the world that can replace you, right? So being authentic in your branding and how you market your company and how you face forward will allow you to connect with your audience in a different way. Don't worry about having your makeup perfect. Don't worry about having 13 filters on your stupid screen. I've got no filters on my screen, okay? Like, you don't like me, you don't like me. I wear weird clothes. Like, I was a fashion designer before I got into this industry. Like, I did textile design and development. So I make crazy outfits. Like, I'm not for everybody. That's okay. But I am right for the right people. And I'd rather attract those people to to my tribe. Right. And so you are absolutely 100% on task. Be authentic. Have that conversation. Allow yourself to be a little vulnerable. You're speaking into a wind tunnel, right? So if you're just selling, they're turning you off and swiping right or swiping up or whatever whatever their, phone allows them to do. They never made it to the end of your ad. They don't care. There's no connection. You're just doing what everybody else is doing. That's the best marketing advice. And I know that's what your background and come from is. And everybody could use somebody like you, Mohammed, that says to them, stop it, like reconnect with your humans. They need you, and they stopped listening to you a long time ago because you polished yourself to the point where you're unbelievable, not authentic. You're not feeling or being part of whatever the situation is. And they have no reason to connect with you.
Wow. Thank you so much for your time, Lisa. And indeed, I was expecting to have a great conversation with you, but now I can feel that whenever we sit down next time and I get to hear your story, I think that will make an even beautiful conversation. And I would love to know about your fashion designing as well, because I love that kind of stuff too. So, my last question to you, Lisa, is that you are doing great when you are talking about guiding roofing contractors, and you have a purpose. Obviously everyone can sense that, and there are many people like you in the industry as well who have been there, done that, and now they are doing great stuff too. So how do you feel like, because there are two kind of persons here. I see a type of industry experts, they are out there on social media and they are just bashing others, and I don't have any offense to that. I think that is their way of living life. But in order to make the industry a better place, I personally feel that we need more positivity around. And that is what you said as well, that roofing is changing. So my last question to you is, Lisa, how do you feel that people like you who have been there, who have done that, need to show up in order to make this industry a better place? And what is the advice you have for the people who have been in the position just as you, and now they are not in that position anymore, and now they want to improve the industry? So what do they need to do?
Your network is your net worth. So you always want to be conscious of who you surround yourself with, especially if you are starting to get on the speaking circuit. Um, distance yourself from those that you don't align with. I do not align with people that have to step on others to make themselves feel better. If you don't have something nice to say, just don't say anything at all. Doesn't mean that that's the case. Be conscious of the other people. If you want to step into a leadership role, understand, what are you doing it for? Are you doing it because you want to be famous and have notoriety? Because that, promise you, you do not want to get into this if that's the case. I get my fair share of hate mail. How dare you say those things? I've been challenged. I've been attacked for my size and that I'm a girl in the industry and that you don't know how it's built and all those things. I've been through all of those things. It's not easy being a leader, and leadership isn't something that you ask for, you fall into. So if you are stepping into the public space and you want to start giving back and teaching and educating, get with get with me. I'm more than happy to share my network with people. If you're afraid to be on stage, but you got a really amazing message, do it scared. I did it scared and ended up where I am today. I never planned on being Lisa, the one that does speaking engagements. I planned on being Lisa that knew how to do a thing and just couldn't keep it quiet because I was watching other people suffer and I had a solution. So I had to get out of my own way of being afraid of how people felt about me to show up publicly. And that's hard enough. Okay. So I don't care what's going on and what's being said and all the backbiting and the ridiculous Facebook ads and the people beating each other up. I don't subscribe to that culture. If you're part of that culture and you love it, awesome. But at the end of the day, choosing a side doesn't always mean that you know the whole story. So unless you're involved, be really conscious of which side you choose because you might be shocked that there's more to the story than you know. And does that affect you in 5 years? Probably not. You got caught up in somebody else's drama llama ding dong, right? Like, so how about if you want to be a leader in this industry, you lead with integrity, and integrity is not, it's how you show up day in and day out, regardless if the cameras are on you. And if the camera turns on and you are different than you are in your daily life, I promise you it won't take long for people to see that. So just be authentically you and give back to the community with the resources that you have. Tap in. There's a whole group of us underground that have been working for years that are great connectors that if you are interested in giving back, let me hook you up and put you in front of people. You know, all I can do is introduce you or invite you or come sit at my table. Like if I'm at an event, again, not exclusive, I'm inclusive. So if you seen me do a podcast, you like what I'm talking about, you think that you have something to say, come up to me. Don't be afraid. Just go up to real leaders and real people that want to mentor will always say yes to somebody that's excited about doing something bigger than where they are right now. Fake mentors and fake gurus don't want to be discovered. So if you go up to them and you ask them for help, they're going to tell you how much it's going to cost you. I'm going to tell you they probably aren't in it for the right reason. Rethink your choices. A lot of us out there are out there to help and just move the industry forward as a whole, because if we don't do it, who's going to do it? Together We Go Further was built on the backs of lots of amazing humans across the United States willing to donate time. Yes, a lot of us own companies. Yes, a lot of us do consulting work. I'm friends with a lot of consultants. I am not the right person for everybody, and I know that. I have an entire Rolodex of people that I like to refer people to. I'm not your human. This is the human that does this specific thing that your company needs. And we all share resources. So just be conscious of that when you're getting in. Know that your network is your net worth, and always be conscious of who that network is and how they treat people when if they're saying bad things in the room with you standing there and talking about somebody else, likelihood they're going to do that to you too
Yes.
when you're around. Yeah.
Perfect. I will wrap up this interview by saying that you cannot be everything for everyone, but you can be something to someone. And if you do that, I think you fulfill the purpose of your life. And with that, I would thank you for your time, Lisa, for taking your time and having this conversation with me. And I pray that 2026 brings you so much happiness and just helps you create this industry and this world a better place. Thank you for your time once again. Have a great day.